The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello again, this is Ralph Boehm on Legislative Update, and just come back from a very busy week. We had sessions on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Normal during the year, if we didn't have a COVID issue, we'd be meeting like once a week in all of pretty much February and March, but unfortunately we couldn't do that. So we've had a couple-day session last month at the Bedford Sportsplex, and for that deadline for all the bills that had to be going to a second committee. And this week we're at the Bedford Sportsplex again on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get all the bills. All the bills had to be done. Okay, we saw a crossover. They have to go to the Senate. All the Senate bills have to come to us, and then we'll have another deadline in a month from now. So we're going to go over calendar number 18 if you're referencing it and you want to look it up. So I'm going to pretty much go over some of the bills that pretty much affect us. Okay. And what was interesting, I noticed, and this is my 13th year up there, and the session was attended by the most state reps that I remember ever showing up. On Wednesday was 383 reps out of 400. I mean, there's sickness, people can't come, their business, but we ended on Friday with about 360, but yeah. But Wednesday was the big day. So on Wednesday, we passed the budget. Included in the budget was a $100 million reduction in the statewide property tax. And this will show up when the DRA calculates the school tax rate next year. But first, before I go back into that, I want to show you now, here's the calendar. Calendar was set up in 3 parts. The first part being the consent calendar, and remember everything on people put stuff on the consent calendar, the committees. If pretty much it was a unanimous vote in the committee or 18-2 or something like that, and nobody objects, so they put it in the consent calendar, and it's just one vote to vote for everything in the consent calendar. Any one member can pull anything off the consent calendar, and then it's done at the end of the last thing. So there was only a couple of bills taken off. Okay, and then we start the regular calendar on page 27. See how many bills were on consent, which is nice. So we go to page, so I sort of want to go through this as I'm reading. Okay, part 1, regular calendar. The first thing was Public Works and Highways. This is all the Public Works bills and highways and money that's going to be spent on that. I mean, I'm not going to go through that. And then a big one was HB 626, was for charitable gaming locations. They can now do historic horse racing, and that was approved. Revenue for this goes to school funding, okay? And then HB 1 and 2 are the budget. 1 is the budget and 2 is how we're going to pay for it. So, and like I said, with the $100 million reduction in the statewide property tax, and it won't see anything until the DRA calculates for the bill, for your school tax bill. And it's anticipated to be about like 50 cents on the dollar, but it's kind of hard to say because every town's sort of different. I had 3 bills passed. I put in 4 bills, 1 being retained. And 1 in education, that was by no means no bill. This bill will prevent a judge from allowing a special meeting if a collective bargaining agreement is voted down at a school district meeting. It should have been there anyway to prevent that, and probably only 2 have happened in the last 6 years, but hey, people said no, it's no. Okay, One in election law, and that's having town clerks notify the Secretary of State the same day when somebody files for state rep. Every other office, county offices and state senate office and all that, you file with the Secretary of State up in Concord. For state reps, there's 400 of them, and could be many, 800 or more people filing, it's done at your town clerk. But what was happening in some towns, they weren't, and then you're supposed to mail it in that day. But still, it might take 4 or 5 days to get to Concord, depending on where you're at. So our town clerk was mailing it every day, but something, you know. So mails it from Litchfield. It goes to Nashua. Nashua sends it up to Concord. Concord then sends it, you know. So it could take 4 or 5 days. And there's a weekend there, because it will start on Wednesday. So you might not even see it on the Secretary of State report until Monday. This way, they do it electronically, by email, or whatever Secretary of State says. And then you can see it that same day, so you know who's filed, or so you can say, should I file? Has anybody else filed? So, like I said, I know at least one town up north where the town clerk wasn't going to send anything in until the last Friday, the last day, so nobody knew there was anybody running. And in judiciary, my bill, HB 135, the one that companies that pollute have to hook up to town or commercial water, supply water, and we know that bill. And the Judiciary Committee amended it for 2 years of paying the water bill instead of the 5 that I had. But it passed, and it passed on a voice vote, which was surprising because it came out of committee. It wasn't unanimous out of the committee. And I think it went voice vote because people didn't want to be on the record of saying no, you know, which is a good thing. And it shocked me because I'm going around trying to get people, hey, make sure you vote yes on this. And then all of a sudden, it was a voice vote and everybody said, I mean, yeah. So I'm going, well, that guy lost my heart attack. Okay, now on other bills, let's go down. So the budget passed, and then we have HB 125. Where was that one at? In criminal justice is no, in other words, no posting of mugshots when someone is arrested. Just because someone's arrested doesn't mean they are guilty. So, you know, the police department can't put up your mugshot so it can be on the newspapers or whatever saying so-and-so was arrested for something. It's, that could ruin somebody's life even though they're found innocent. So that was done. HB 195 and 196, they're similar. Remember the case, I think it was in St. Louis, Missouri, where some protesters broke into this gated community. They smashed through the gate, and husband and wife stood outside of their home with guns, and they were arrested. The Missouri Attorney General said, I'm taking that case on, and you're not arresting them. So, but we made sure in our law that you can't do that. Just because if somebody's trespassing on your property and you're holding a gun, you're protecting your property. You have no idea what the trespasser is going to do. So it's again, so that's taken care of. Also, there's a prohibition right now in New Hampshire. You can't carry a loaded firearm on an OHRV or a snowmobile. Loaded means you can have a magazine in, but nothing in the chamber. But the point is, you can do that in every other vehicle, in a car or a truck or a motorcycle. But so in the snowmobile, you can still be. You know, the thing is, you have a safety on most guns, and I have a gun that doesn't have a safety, so I'd never have something in the chamber. But it's just as dangerous in any other vehicle. So that you can do that now. You can protect yourself. Also, HB 338, that's a bill to say that dog theft and tampering with a dog's radio collar is now a Class A felony, because dogs are expensive. You know, a lot of dogs, people pay thousands of dollars for the dogs, and they pay, you know, for the radio collars and all that. So it's a Class A felony now. Okay. Also, HB 539 fixed the law so a attorney general or a county attorney or a town attorney can't go to your phone company and say, hey, I want to see the records of Ralph Boehm for the phone calls he made. No, you gotta have the warrant, have to have a warrant now. So just like any other search, you know, you can't have an unwarranted access to records from telephone companies. You need a warrant, which, like I said, is easy to get. In education, none of the constitutional amendments passed. So you need 2/3. We needed 239 votes for any of them to get out of the House. And then they go to the Senate, need that 2/3 of the Senate. And then you need 3/5 of the people to vote on it. So it's hard to get one anyway. And I don't know why people put them in, because with the House, the way it was divided, none of them were going to pass. So the one that we had, CACR 3, was to take out the Blaine Amendment from, I think I covered this a while ago, and from our Constitution, which the New Hampshire U.S. Supreme Court says unconstitutional anyway. So it really doesn't matter if somebody takes a town to court or people to court for giving money to allow some student to go to a sectarian school. There are law firms that will take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in at least 3 other cases has ruled Blaine Amendment is unconstitutional. So okay. Schools, HB 69, schools are allowed to display the national motto, which you know is "In God We Trust," without fear of lawsuit. It's not a mandate. They can if they want to. Just like on 9/11, I remember in Litchfield, all the schools on their billboards outside the school had "In God We Trust." I mean, the problem with that, somebody might think, hey, I'm going to sue on that. If you do, the Attorney General takes the lawsuit. So not mandating anything, the schools can do it if they want to. So HB 71, that was my no means no bill. And if you want, you can look it up on the calendar, and it explains it pretty much. HB 140. In 2010, we put in a thing on bullying, but for some reason, part of the law said schools are held harmless, administrators and whatnot. But wait a minute. The problem is, over the years, we've had bullying cases throughout the state where schools did not do anything to bullies. They were, in some cases, protecting the bully because the bully was on the football team or something. That was a true story. So there are problems. So in this case, we fixed that law. So somebody, you know, the child being bullied and maybe gets hospitalized, or even in some cases suicide, and they find out the school didn't do anything about it, you can sue the school. So hopefully this will force schools to now take bullying seriously. Okay. Also, HB 182. This, you can see there are other bills here, but like I said, I'm going over them. If you move to Litchfield, for example, and you're in the, of course, you're in the military, your coursework is transported into the new school, and the credits are taken care of. That's what we call the military compact. We changed the law this year to allow everybody. Why just the military? It's the principal can say no, but have to give a valid reason. So in other words, if somebody moves from Minnesota and they have these credits and they might not align perfectly with our course curriculum, but if they took the course, it could be they can make an alignment, and yeah, that's the same course. And I remember some years ago, a student had come into the district from Colorado, I think, and I think it was like in the 7th grade, and with the courses he had, he was in the 8th grade. So I don't think we have a problem in Litchfield, but it's still, it can be refused, but the principal's got to give a good reason. Okay. So, and now, okay. And here's one, 321. If for some reason in New Hampshire, I guess because of costs, we do not have a gifted student program. A lot of states do, okay? So this just has the schools submit an annual report on what we are doing for gifted students. Say we have a math genius. What are we doing to help that student? Okay? So other schools might look at that and say, hey, we can do that too, or we can do the same thing. And in the past, I've known, for example, I know my granddaughter was valedictorian, but she didn't think she was gifted, but anyway. But she knew some gifted students, and for math, for example, she had 5 years of math. She knew the gifted student that was in the same grade she was that she used to get math information from, and this kid was gifted in math, and so it's other things, gifted and talented, and even if it's a sports or art, for example. So what are your school doing? So maybe in the future we can come up with something for gifted students. HB 77, that was, I just mentioned earlier, that was my bill on election law for the town clerks to file. Okay. And if you look at all of the election law bills in Part 2 of the calendar passed. So if you want, you can go look at them. Okay. And executive departments and administration, when I think, and this has happened over the years, I don't know how many times, and I think it's one of the stupidest laws ever. It's changing to Atlantic time, when or if Maine and Massachusetts does. The whole argument in this is do away with saving time. Well, then do away with saving time. Don't change, now be adding another hour if I'm going from New Hampshire to California. I mean, you know, and so we're really going, so yeah, it might be later at night, but the kids are in the dark at 8:30 in the morning. So, so to me, it's, but it passed. Hopefully the Senate does something with that. Okay, like kills it. Okay, in judiciary, again, that was my HB 135 was the first bill in judiciary, and like I said, it passed. Nothing that much in House and Human Services. You can go look at this. The HB. You can see that came out of the committee, HB 135, as 12-9. But like I said, it was voice vote. Mark McLean, who's our floterial rep in Manchester, he wrote the majority opinion on the bill. So that's fast, and I've already talked to some senators, and it should be good because we have senators that are in our area, like Gary Daniels in Milford and Kent Radishi in Bedford, and so there are senators in this district, Sharon Carson in Londonderry. So we have senators in our district that will be for this, at this bill. So hopefully it should be okay. Also, some bills that failed in judiciary was right to know laws. One, to make public collective bargaining negotiations public. Now, I've been, when I was on the school board and even the selectmen, been in negotiations with like police and the school. So I was part of the negotiation team, and there's pros and cons on that. I mean, but I think they should be public, and so everybody knows what is going on. I mean, unions know what their representatives are doing. You know, the teachers and townspeople and whatnot know what we are doing. So, but anyway, it failed. And that's come up before, so one of these days. But there was another one, HB 232. I don't think it's a major problem, but apparently some towns had a problem if towns and school districts, they're selling property. And of course, that's all non-public, which it should be when you're negotiating stuff like that. But this makes, after the sale is over, or not, depending on if it doesn't go through, those sessions have to become public. In other words, what happened? You know, so it's after the fact. So it's, you know. HB 384, no sharing of location data. For example, in your phone app. You know, it says, a company, I mean, you put an app on your phone and it said, can we collect your data? And sometimes you sort of have to answer yes in order for the app to work. But they can't then sell that data to somebody else. So they can't share that data that you told the app that they have permission to use because it's needed for the app on your phone, but they can't sell that data. I don't know how that's going to work because across state lines, but anyway. HB 440 and HB 542, you might want to look at that. It's about the most of what's happening with the pandemic, with the governor executive orders, and those kind of things. It's protection of your civil rights, emergency powers, protection of civil liberties. And the main part of it is houses of worship to be considered essential, just like liquor stores, food stores, etc. If we can make liquor stores essential, then churches and houses of worship should also be essential. So, then municipal and county. Oh, Jesus. I thought we were going fast on this. Anyway, one thing I always mention is the committee called Labor, Industrial and Rehabilitation Services. Now you can make an acronym out of that, LIARS. But ever since I've been there, I brought that up, and I don't you think you should change your, you know. But anyway, municipal and county, that's mainly a lot of us. HB 67, that's petition warrant articles cannot be amended to change the intended purpose. Now, there used to be, over the years, many bills on this saying petition warrant articles cannot be amended. Wait a minute. Then every bill, I've been a selectman and I've been on the school board. That would, if that kind of bill passed, then every warrant article you would see would be a petition warrant article. Right? You can get 10 people, but, oh yeah, we need a new school, we need it to be a petition, then you couldn't change it. But this is it, cannot be amended to change the intended purpose. And that's sort of what's in law anyway, but it's been manipulated. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Also, hey, this was a good one, because we've seen this across the country on news, where some kid sets up a lemonade stand and the police crack down on him. No, you can't do that, you have to have a license. Well, New Hampshire law sort of says the same thing, but I don't think any police jurisdictions are telling a kid, no, you have to have a license. So, and it's not just lemonade stands, but you see that in Litchfield, kids are setting up lemonade stands. If I'm on my motorcycle, sometimes I'll stop. Yeah. So current law requires license for all of this, but don't need it anymore. Again, remember, all these bills still have to be passed by the Senate and signed by the government. Also, HB 243, which is a good one. I remember when I was on the Budget Committee, which I was on for 16 years, the presentation of the budget to include line items. When I did my budget hearings, every department, for example, had the budget. And the line item included, and the columns were the current budget, current expenditures, department asking, the selectmen's recommendation, the budget committee's recommendation, and the difference. And I always did that. Now, for some reason, we don't know. So this in the presentation of the budget include line items. It's easily done. I did it before we even had Excel. I was using an MS-DOS program, which I provided the selectman's office to use, and they used it, and every year, and it was easy to do. And it would make the job easier, and they might even be still doing that way now, but the Budget Committee is not presenting it. They're giving totals. And it'd be nice if we knew, as people, what each department is spending for what. Anyway. Also, no problem in our town, HB 484, where it says no Budget Committee recommendation on the warrant articles that do not have an expenditure. We don't do that in our town, but I guess some towns are doing it, and so we don't do it. But anyway, HB 251 in transportation. This took an hour on the floor, like we really had the time. Anyway, transportation. HB 251. Under the age of 2, you must be in a rear-facing seat. Now, it used to be weight and height. Some 2-year-olds are pretty big. One of the arguments of this, it's if you say you have 3 kids in your family and you have a regular car, 3 in the back seat, you have 3 of your kids in car seats, and one of them is like maybe 1.5, you may not be able to fit a rear-facing car seat in that car. So what do? Buy another car? And the kid's big. Now, it's always been infants and whatnot, and small kids, you have to have a rear-facing car seat. That's not the problem. Now we're saying 2-year-olds. So how is that enforceable anyway? You have to bring your child's birth certificate with you? I mean, so the cop said, how old is he? 2.5. I mean, come on. It's hopefully the Senate sees some common sense. And like I said, it took an hour for most people with kids saying, I can't do this. I'll have to go buy another car. You know, and for small babies, no problem. They totally agree. You have to put in the rear-facing car seat. But you know, if those with kids know some 2-year-olds are pretty darn big. You know, and it's even been proven that some kids, if you put them in a rear-facing car seat that are big, could get sick. You know, and where you can't see them. So that's the problem with that. So with that, hopefully, I answered a bunch of questions on what happened this past week. Things got contentious also at the end because it was set up in 3 different sections. Part 1, we did. Part 2, we did. Part 3 was set up to be all the bills that came out of the committee as inexpedient to legislate. In other words, to be killed. So it was done that way in case there wasn't any time. We ran out of time. And unlike when we're in the State House where they can lock the doors and we can be there, last year, remember we were there to 4:30 in the morning, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 the following morning. So, and to finish the bills. Unfortunately, we were in the Bedford Sportsplex and we couldn't do that. We had to be out by 7. And it was a deadline. And we couldn't have other days. So really it came down to those bills are pretty like they were being tabled. So the first time I've seen that happen, but hopefully soon we can get in the State House, back where we should be, and then the next bills will be voting on all the Senate bills, so hopefully we can do that. Also, just for COVID announcement, I mean, right now you can make appointments for just about anybody in the state, and Walgreens is doing the shots. For example, my daughter has an appointment in early May, for a shot at the Walgreens in Hudson. So go online, get the COVID stuff, Walgreens, and they're even advertising it on television. I see some ads on it where Walgreens we start doing shots, so you can make appointments and be a whole lot easier than like I had to do in end of last month, wait online for 45 minutes at Nashua South High School, but which had no problem. I didn't mind it. But anyway, so with that, I hope I gave you a lot of information that you can use, and you can look at the calendar. The calendar divided into, like, there's 18A, 18B, and 18C. 18A has the amendments in it that some of these like pass with amendment. So, and those are the amendments if you ever want to look them up. And same way if you want to look at all everything that was in the budget. I just made the big one with, we're going to get some money back. And also, the taxes were lowered in a lot of cases. BT, the business taxes were lowered. Also, in the thing was to lower the ruined meals tax. So don't know if any of that will get through the Senate. The Senate will now go through the budget and do the same thing, and there'll be a committee of conference to hash things out. So with that, hope this has been instructive, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Be back. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.